Welcome back from those master classes and those amazing sessions. I'm sure they were full of knowledge and they have your neurons fired up to carry on that learning forward. And now, welcome back to one of our sessions in the main hall, which is learning from the crisis, where we are and where we need to be. Now, crisis is but another name for adversity. And in the middle of every adversity lies an opportunity. And it has been proven time and again that it is not the survival of the fittest, rather, it is the survival of the most adaptive species. Whatever the crisis, we must take it as an adversity, understand where we are, adapt, and move to wherever we need to be. और इस पैनल ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਦੋ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਅਨੁਭਵੀ ਸੱਜਣ ਹਨ। ਪਹਿਲਾ तो मैं ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਵਾਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਸਰਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਸੇ। Mr. Sarveer Singh is the CEO of Policy Bazaar and has over 20 years of experience in corporate leadership roles, venture capital, and public market investing. And we hear he is on a mission to help India's middle class protect themselves from death, disease, and disability. And in conversation with Sarveer Singh ji is Mr. Gurmeet Chawla, our moderator. Mr. Gurmeet Chawla is the director of Master Trust Group, and he has been into financial services for the past 34 years. But that's not all. It is our absolute pride and pleasure to have him with us for a very, very special reason. He's the founder, charter member of TIE Chandigarh and Chandigarh Angel Network. So what you see of TIE right now is all owing to him and his efforts. But everything put aside for us, he is Bhishma Pitama, someone we look up to. ਸਰਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਤੇ ਗੁਰਮੀਤ ਜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ-ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏ ਡਿਜੀਟਲੀ ਹੀ ਸਹੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ over to you both now. Over to you, Gurmeet sir, to take this forward and to be in conversation with our special guest this evening.
Thank you, Niharika. Very nice words for you. And welcome, Sarveerji. Thanks from TIE and TIECon that you spared time to be with us today evening.
It's my pleasure, Gurmeet. I'm really happy to be here.
You have been introduced a bit, but let me say a little bit more about you. Sarveer is a venture capitalist and he has served in leadership positions, very senior leadership positions in digital and media companies. He has been in a role of an investment banker or a venture investment for a very long time. And what we hear about Yatra, Book My Show, Web Chutney and all, he was instrumental in those investments. And he played an instrumental role as a managing director of Capital 18, which is Network 18 company. And with that group, he did a lot, which we discuss as we go along. And he was a regional advisor to JP Morgan. And also he has held some leadership positions in New York with Citibank and with Emerson at Hong Kong. He is an alum of IIT Delhi and IIM Ahmedabad. He is a squash player, a yoga doer every day and loves trekking. He comes from army background and he is ably supported by his wife. She's a content writer and engages children in many ways through her side. And he has two daughters, twins, who are 11 years old.
Three daughters. I'm sorry, Gurmeet, I have to correct that.
Because twins and then one more, right? Okay, good. I missed that up. Sorry. Yeah. So let me just introduce for our audience what Policy Bazaar is. Policy Bazaar, the PB FinTech, is a web insurer aggregator, the first of its kind in India, and is the largest. The beauty is that they have been able to raise more than $600 million in 7 rounds since 2008, and the leading investors were InfoEdge, Intel Capital, Investure, Premji Invest, Tiger Global, SoftBank and all. Today it's valued at $3.5 billion. So we are looking at a unicorn, which is Indian, and it's going great places. They have won, because of their good leadership, they have won innovation awards, content awards, marketing awards, what to say about their app, their website, all awards possible probably they won as a leading fintech. Now we're talking of a company here which is a fintech, and we're talking about fintech, all the events that we are today, because we believe that fintech is the future of India and India is already there. And we're proud of all people who have been the leaders in fintech. Now, coming to the subject for the day, learning from the crisis and way ahead. Sarojji, we have seen that COVID has, in a way, there is a shift in the global play. There is a shift in power structure. There is a shift in behavior of consumer. There is a shift in the expectations of. What's your challenge now, or what's your been your reaction to these so far?
So, Gurmeet, first of all, thanks for the kind words and thanks for having me. I think the way I look at COVID and what we've learned over the last 1 year, and I think now, we are not spending a lot of time looking back. We are now looking forward. What we have really learned is one of the main lessons, I think, is that nothing is impossible, right? I think we had no idea last year, maybe say in February or whatever, that things could be so different and drastically different for the whole year. And yet, we have, I would say, survived, we have thrived, we have learned to live, work from home, we have learned to do hybrid models, we are now, coming back to work also. So I think we've gone through a lot of, different types of environments and have, like I said, survived and thrived. The main challenge for us is that being insurance, we are in the insurance business. And what happened with COVID was that COVID was a wake-up call. So I think all of us know at heart, we all know that we must buy insurance and it's good for us and it's something that we must protect ourselves, from death, disease and disability. But a lot of us, feel that maybe I'm too young, maybe this will not happen to me, maybe, I'll do it next year, what is the hurry? So, there is a lot of, delay and procrastination in buying insurance. And I think what is required is that if you see your own behavior, and many in the audience will hopefully, have seen the same impact, that when something happens close to you, right, it happens to your family members or to your friend circle or somebody, that's when you wake up and you say, oh my God, I have to protect myself because I saw so-and-so going through this problem. Now, in that sense, COVID was this global sort of wake-up call and everybody, figured that we need to be protected against these concerns. Now, the challenge for us is as follows, that a whole bunch of people have been activated by COVID. They bought insurance. Many of them came to us, many of them to other channels. Now, it is up to us as to what we can do with those people and how do we continue to, grow this business. Because as you know, insurance penetration in India is still very low, just as it is for most other sort of markets and products and services. So the main challenge for us is that we have been given this opportunity. People have learned about insurance. Now we have to build upon this and obviously retain the people who have come in and also expand the pie and bring in new people. We are, of course, I think at Policybazaar, we are very lucky in the sense that, the hard work that we have done over the last 12, 13 years has put us in a place where we are at the intersection of two very important trends. One is the trend of protection for people wanting to protect themselves through insurance. And the second is the trend of digital, the fact that people are buying products and services digitally. And since we've been working very hard on this, now is a time for our platform to really shine. And, that's what we are really focused on as we look forward.
Look at the entire the financial or the social economic ecosystem. What is done to the system, and how do you look at the system as a whole or the ecosystem as a whole after COVID?
So if I were to take the question maybe in a very literal way, see what has happened, Gurmeet, over the last 1 year, what we have seen is that there has been a bit of a divide between the haves and the have-nots. And I'll explain what I mean. See, there is a bunch of people who have been severely impacted by COVID. So if you are in certain sectors like hospitality, travel, those are kind of areas which have been severely impacted by it. Self-employed people to a large extent, right? Then there is a class of salaried people who have been able to retain their jobs. And in many cases, as we saw after about 5-6 months, jobs were relatively safe and, people, in fact, even were in good shape, I would say. But there is also a bunch of people in the salaried class who perhaps were in the wrong sectors or, in the wrong areas where they either lost their jobs or their, incomes were cut. So what you have is that the people whose salaries were maintained through the year, right, or grew, they are in very good shape because actually their expenses went down. So they were not commuting, they were perhaps not eating out as much, especially in the beginning. They were not going to cinema halls. So all the money that they saved, actually they are in better shape this year than they were last year. So they're richer, they are in, have more savings, etc. But the next two classes, the salaried classes whose either salaries were cut or who unfortunately were laid off, and the self-employed section to a large extent, they are still in a world of pain. So what I feel is that the socioeconomic divide has got, a bit more exaggerated. Now, of course, we are very hopeful that with the vaccine, with the economy bouncing back, things will start to, converge again next year. But at this point, what we have to do is to be very careful that we are able to serve the first set of people, because we can only serve the people, who have the incomes, and we are able to help the second set to the extent that we can in providing maybe lower cost products or other things that we can do to, help them through this period.
And how is it you feel impacted to the fintechs as a whole? Because you are a leader in a platform or a fintech. So there are a lot of fintech entrepreneurs around. What does it mean to them now, and how would the investor look at the such startups post-COVID?
So I think only there I would say there are two things. See, fintech now has become a very broad word, right? In the sense that if you ask me honestly, there is no financial institution who is not technology driven anymore, right? Whether it's even dare say that banks which have been around for hundreds of years, they themselves are now talking about their applications, and they're talking about very proudly about all that you can do, in a technology driven way. So I think the word fintech is now no longer it's not like there are some financial institutions which are fintechs and the others are not. Everybody is a fintech company. I think there is a spirit which is different, that what we commonly believe to be a fintech is a company which is trying to do things in an innovative manner, which is providing simpler, easy to use customer journeys, and is making the process of finance, which has always been a little mysterious, a little bit more accessible and easy to use. So to that extent, I think it depends very much on where you are. So from an investor perspective, what has happened is that companies which are dominant or have good leadership positions, they have become exceedingly valuable. So people are very keen to invest in those companies. So we are lucky at Policybazaar to be one of those companies where people are very interested because they see our dominant position and insurance as a sector has also done well. So clearly we are, in that sense, we are in that chosen circuit. Now, if you take the opposite view, right? If you look at lending, if you look at, let's say you are lending to MSMEs or small and medium enterprises, now that is a sector which has been badly hit, right? Because as I explained to you, the self-employed segment has been hit. Now there you will find that investors are far more circumspect about wanting to invest in those companies. They would only like to, invest if they can actually see the scale. And of course, right now, it is hard for those companies to show scale because it's going to take time, for it to recover. So I think there is I would say there is a kind of a continuum. Investors are definitely interested in market leaders and companies which have scale. In fact, they're being valued more than they ever were. But I think the smaller and mid-sized startups, I'm sure, especially in lending, etc., are facing more difficulty because investors are worried about their loan books and things like that.
How was this time like when you were struggling to after this disruption by COVID, and what was happening in the boardroom, and what were the initiatives discussed or something which is innovative for future for you?
So I think maybe the first thing that we did once we understood that there was going to be a lockdown, and there was going to be, of course at that time nobody had any way of knowing how long it will last. But the first thing we did was to make sure that we were able to continue doing our business, because it was in the middle of March, and March is a very big month from an insurance perspective. So the first thing we wanted to do was to make sure that we could, our employees were safe and we are able to move to a system, because we actually were not prepared for this. We have always had people in offices and, working in a very disciplined and structured manner. So to allow people to work from home was both a process change and obviously, mindset change in terms of technology and controls and things like that. So I think we first spent about 5-10 days, and we were lucky that we got those 10 days before the lockdown actually happened to, put in place the systems. Of course, they were not perfect. They have been improved over time, but they were good enough. So I think that was the first order of business. A second order of business was that we quickly realized that this is a moment when we have to be very visible. So typically, in April and all, insurance is not a big month, and we would not necessarily be spending money on television and things like that. But we decided that this is a different year. We have to be visible. Consumers are looking for insurance. And we also obviously realized that physical channels of distribution will not be available, right, in April. So we immediately increased our spending on television, on marketing. We were very visible. And the third thing that we did was we went back to our insurance partners and we made sure that we could, support the demand, because we knew that there would be a lot of demand. and how we need to modify the processes, because a lot of things that happen. For instance, you have to go for a medical. We knew that nobody could go for a medical in April, right? So we modified processes and we decided, okay, this segment we can do this, we can do that. So I think the most important thing was to react decisively, I would say, to the changes. And obviously at that time we didn't know, like for instance, we had to literally overnight order, I think we ordered something like 3,000 tablets, 1,000 laptops, a few thousand phones. Now obviously at that time we had no idea how exactly it would work, but we just said that this is a chance, an investment that we would have to make. Of course it turned out to be the right decision, because those were very much needed. But I think those are the kind of things that one had to do quickly and move at speed at that time.
I thought you could add some new products to your offering, like securing the job loss.
That's right. So we did introduce, Gurmeet, loss of job insurance a few months into the COVID period. We saw that there was a lot of, so Gurmeet, we pride ourselves also on listening to our consumers. So because we have a lot of people who our agents and our advisors speak to, we also listen to them. We try to understand what are people worried about, what are they seeing, what are their concerns. And when we heard clearly that there was a loss of concern about loss of jobs, we brought in place a product. This is a product which is available very much abroad. It's not very popular in India. So we had to work with our insurance partners. That's why it took us a bit of time to modify existing products and introduce this. And of course, that was another line of business that we've actually started, which is around loss of job insurance.
In a way, I mean, you're the right person to be in this seat as a CEO, because you have seen that side of investing large amounts. And here you have a company which is invested heavily. And you are the person who knows technology, media, and you're building this company now. So how do you balance between the investors' aspirations and business and the expectation of the customer?
So I think in that sense, as you correctly said, having been on the other side of the table, I have a decent understanding of what, obviously investors are looking for. I think it's also important to, understand what we are doing, right? And to explain it. See, many times the challenge is always actually communication. I think the investors obviously have their certain goals in mind and certain expectations, and the company and its founders and the management team also, in most cases you would agree, are also trying to do their best. So, it's not like that they are working at cross purposes, but sometimes the communication can be a challenge, and also the language that they use, right? Because as a management team or as a founding team, your focus is a bit more long-term, you're a bit more focused on the business, prospects versus trying to maybe maximize short-term, financial results. But I think I always believe that good investors also are the same. They are not, they're not interested only in one quarter's numbers or something like that. So I think the first is to communicate and to explain where you're going. See, as if the person who is with you buys the goals, that like, where are we going? What is the vision? Why are we doing this? And what are the markers? See, it always helps. I believe that, strategy, etc., should always be measured against outcome, against results. You cannot just say that I have a strategy and, it will play out in 5 years. So to that extent, the discipline of investors, the discipline of regular board meetings and the advice that they give you is extremely valuable. And I've been very lucky to have very good investors. And I think to that extent, what I feel I have also brought to the management team is, a little bit of that experience and being able to help both sides, understand where we are going and what we are doing. So I think that's really the...
What's that one story or the pull factor or the wow factor in Policybazaar that investors are coming in and again, they want to invest more with you at higher valuations?
I would say there are two things, Gurmeet. I think the first thing is that by virtue of all the work that has gone in, Policybazaar today is a dominant player in the digital insurance business. Just to give you a sense, we are frankly 15-20 times larger than the next person who's in the business. So that's, I think, one thing. And I mean, from a scale perspective, we are the largest independent distributor of insurance in India, whether online or offline. So we are in that sense, we have built a position where we are important for the insurance industry, not just, from an online perspective. And the second thing I would say, the wow factor, is the fact that we are driven by direct traffic. And let me explain what that means. What that means is that we almost 80 to 90% of our business is done from consumers who come to policybazaar.com or they type Policybazaar in Google. So we are not buying traffic, or we are not just by marketing, we are not able to bring these people onto our platform and then we are selling them insurance. These people are coming to us for insurance. And that is a very powerful thing, because that means that, your business model is not dependent, as we all know that, marketing, etc., the cost of acquisition, etc., is very high. And, it's very hard to make money if you're only dependent on, the large search or social platforms. So the fact that 80-90% of our business is happening from people who are coming to us, I think that's a very powerful feature. And that, is again very, very important, because the intent of that person is to buy insurance, right? That person is not coming to Policybazaar just because they saw an ad or they saw something, or, they clicked on something on Facebook. They are coming because they're looking at insurance. Now, not all of them will buy from us. Some of them will just research on us and they may buy elsewhere, and, various other things will happen. But the fact that we have this large number of people who see this, I think that's a very powerful, perspective on Policybazaar. And just to give you some numbers, in the last 2 years, about 3 crore Indians have come to our platform and spent some time on it. And of these 3 crores, about 1 crore Indians have bought policies. So, we have a very large base. And as you know, there are only about 5-6 crore Indians who are actually in the tax net, like who are, who need to pay tax or who file tax returns. So we have a large number of the people who actually, are interested in insurance and who can get insurance, who already come to us. So that's, I think, one of the big powerful features of Policybazaar.
What do you think is next in innovation pipeline to remain ahead? And is there any plan for global footprint?
So I think we have, I would say, the couple of vectors that we are very keen to focus on. One, on the domestic side, if you see on the Indian business, even though we have become, like I said, we are scale players, but still we are very small in relation to the size of the industry. There is a large opportunity for us, and I think the fact that people want to buy things digitally is a really big opportunity and something that we need to capitalize on. Because as you know, right, you can never be happy with where you are, and there are always new companies that are coming up, new people who will be wanting to do better than us. So I think we have to always stay on the ball and make sure that we are able to innovate and bring the best of products and technology to the business. We have one very big advantage. Over the last 13 years, we have collected a lot of data. And that data is something that we can use to drive products, to drive marketing and everything. And if we are able to do a good job of that, I think that will be very powerful. So that's one area of innovation that we are very much focused on. And outside India, I would say that we are present in the Middle East. We have recently, over the last couple of years, actually, we've started building a meaningful business in the Middle East. So we will definitely expand that business. And I think as we go further, I'm sure there will be opportunities in other parts of Asia and other areas where we may go. But I think first order of business is to make sure India does extremely well. We believe the opportunity in India is huge, and then we'll also maybe look at other global opportunities.
Sarbvir, technology is an important part, right, in your business. And do you outsource or you have everything in-house?
So Gurmeet, we are a very much in-house shop. There must be very little technology or services that we outsource. There is historical reason for it also, because when Policybazaar started, initially there was nothing available, right, in insurance companies, and insurance was not a field where you get a lot of software and availability. So we have built everything, and I think that building everything ourselves has given us huge amount of advantage. So if you see our CRM, or if you see our sales or service systems and all, they are custom built for insurance, right? And for the sort of very use cases that come in India. So different insurance companies are not all the same. There are 56 insurance companies in India, and they have different, levels of technology sophistication, maturity, etc. So being able to work with them is not a one size kind of fits all system, and our system is able to adapt and is flexible for that. So yes, we have built all the core technology ourselves, and I would say frankly core or even not so core. And that's how we have always built the company. We believe that technology is the sort of enables the business. So it's a source of differentiation. As I explained to you, the data that we have is a source of differentiation, and we do not want to share that data with anybody else. And it's something that we work on.
Sabir, there are a lot of participants who are tech entrepreneurs or maybe entrepreneurs as a whole. For their benefit, what it takes to succeed?
I think it's a $1 billion question, literally. I obviously, and it's probably, everyone has different views on it, but my view, what I would like to share is that, there are no overnight successes. I mean, any company that you look at, which looks like, it just quickly has become a star, it's not like that. Normally it takes 9, 10, 12 years, before you reach anywhere. So the most important thing I would say for entrepreneurs is that they must have persistence. I mean, you must have persistence, you must have patience, and you must believe in the problem that you're solving. You cannot take somebody else's problem, unless until you feel the pain of the problem, until and unless you feel the issue yourself. It's very hard to motivate people, because what is the role of the entrepreneur? The role of the entrepreneur is always to be the salesperson, right? You have to always be selling. You have to explain to your family why you are doing this. You have to explain to your team members why they should join you on this journey. You have to explain to your suppliers, you have to explain to your customers. So you're always the person who is, driving people forward. So unless you deeply believe in the proposition, it's very hard. So those are the three things I would say. You must have deep belief, you must be patient, and you must have persistence, because these are you never know when it will take off, when it will take time. But if you don't have this, then it's really hard to succeed, because as you know, right, it's not easy to build a business. It's very, very hard. And I think you need to sort of kind of give it time and give it the effort that it requires to make it succeed.
Now, you have a busy life, as a professional. So how do you maintain your work-life balance?
See, I would say, Gurmeet, first thing is that, when I started working, I was lucky to work with some very good people. And I think one of the things that they explained to me is that, you have to treat everything equally. You have to like what you are doing. I think that's a very important part of life, because we all are going to spend a lot of time working. So now, of course, it's not always possible, but I think to the extent that you can, I would say that, I love my work. I like to do what I'm doing. I'm very privileged. I'm very happy to have this opportunity. So I enjoy my work. I also am very equally, I have very clear hobbies, like you mentioned upfront. I play squash, 2-3 times a week. And that's something that I find the time for. So I look at it as just as a meeting is important, playing squash is important, doing yoga is important, spending time with my kids is important. And I think I try to almost schedule is the wrong word, but I try to keep time for that. And what I do is that you have to then make some sacrifices, right? You can't have everything. So you will not find me spending too much time going out, or spending too much time going to bars or things like that, because honestly there is no time for that. So I think it is priorities, and as long as you enjoy what you're doing, I mean, I have no regrets. It's not like I would like to go to bars and I'm not going. I'm happy with my life. That's what. So that way, I think that's the most important thing. I think you should do what your inner calling is. Then I think things go well.
Before we come to the end, what's your learning from Hong Kong and US? Because you've been there for about 10 years overseas, and then you came back for your personal reasons, I'm told, and you spend so much time in India now.
Yeah, so of course I grew up in India, so for me, there was never any question about, there's no problem in living in India at all. I think but I will tell you that it was very good that I got a chance to live abroad, and I think I'll share a personal lesson and a professional lesson. I think the personal lesson for me was that, I always say that Indian men, we are a bit spoiled in India, and we normally, our families take very good care of us, so we are not able to appreciate what it takes to run a house and what all you have to do. And for me, after 10 years that I spent, about 9 years, I was a bachelor. So I had to take care of the house and, manage it. And that was a huge learning for me. And I learned that how hard it is and how much effort you have to put in, and, why it's important. So that I think has grounded me, has made me perhaps a better person, I feel. And the second thing is that the standards of professional, expectations that are there outside. Of course, now things have changed in India also. But, the standards of professional expectations are very high abroad. And people really, when they use the word professional, it is used not in a light sense, but, it means that somebody who knows their job and will deliver. And if you make a commitment, you keep that commitment. And again, I would say I was lucky to have very good bosses, and they really taught me this thing, the attention to detail, how to make sure that you present your ideas carefully, how you look at the audience, rather than looking at yourself. See, many times when we speak, we only think of our own interest and our own sort of viewpoint, but actually you have to always think of the audience. And so I think some of these were sort of invaluable life lessons, and I'm really glad that I got a chance to live abroad as well.
Thank you, Sarbvir. I mean, that was great interaction with you, and thanks for joining us here. I think that's the time we had for if the support team can let us know if we have more time. Otherwise, we just like to close this. Or if there are any questions, support team can pass on to me, and we can have a discussion on those questions. Okay, I think we are moving to the next session that is already live. Thanks a lot, Sarbvir.
Thank you, Gurmeet.
Hope to connect again. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, thanks.